Greetings, Ohio. Greetings, wine tasting with winemakers. And hello, Kristen and Adam. I am Count Augustin Honesty, founder of Buena Vista Winery in 1857. I was brought back to life 10 years ago by the remarkable Jean-Charles Boisset, who acquired my historic winery in 2011. My task, pleasant as it is to tell you about my remarkable winery, talk about a few of the wines, and then our winemaker, Brian Maloney, will do all of the heavy lifting, one might say. I am happy to tell you about the first wine. This is La Victoire Brut. This is a genuine French champagne with an American winery label upon it. A grower champagne sourced from some of the finest vineyards in Champagne, in the heart of Champagne-Epernay. 70% Premier Cru Pinot Noir from Montagne du Rance. 30% Grand Cru Chardonnay from Menil-sur-Oger and Chuy. 3 years entourage age upon the yeast. It is a glorious bottle of champagne. Now I'm going to walk you around the winery and show you a few of its remarkable places. This is the Champagne Cellars, designed by Jean-Charles Boisset himself. It is the preeminent place to drink genuine champagnes and sparkling wines made by Buena Vista. Nothing like the Bubble Lounge. But now we will go out into our champagne cellars. I will show you the main cave of Buena Vista, dug into the solid rock of the Mayacama Mountains. And there it is. This cave dug in 1862, and here I will tell you about a remarkable wine, Chateau Buena Vista Carneros Chardonnay. And all bells and whistles, Carneros Chardonnay from the most glorious of wine regions, Carneros down by San Pablo Bay. Now, once again, Mr. Brian Maloney will do the wine portion much better than I. I am 208 years old, and Brian is remarkably young and brilliant at winemaking. But I will tell you about my life very quickly. Born in 1812 in Hungary as a member of the Hungarian nobility, my life was pleasant. I learned to read and write in French, German, Latin, English, and Hungarian, but my dream was to come to America to make great European wine. In 1842, my wife Eleanor and our boys Geza, Attila, and Arpad sold all of our land, and we moved all the way to Wisconsin. Because in 1842, Wisconsin was the West. And I bought land 30 miles north of Madison on the Wisconsin River and laid at a town now called Sauk City, Wisconsin. If only I'd thought of water parks. Too cold for my grapevines in Wisconsin. In 1849, my family and I joined a wagon train, and we took a 9-month, 2,500-mile wagon train journey all the way to San Diego, California, where upon arrival I bought land, planted grapes, and in 1850 was elected the very first sheriff of San Diego County. And now I will show you the Burgundian oak fermentation tanks that were acquired in 2012, made according to our specifications. 3-ton open-top fermenters with a special lid we can close if we want to store wine. Wine has been made in vessels like this for over 500 years. Now, I'll tell you about the Chateau Buena Vista proprietary red. I never bottle a single varietal. This is a modern notion. I always blended different grapes together because by blending, we receive varied flavors without extensive bottle age. The art of the winemaker is to blend. And what a delicious blend it is. Now, it was a difficult job being sheriff. I went around California looking for the perfect place to grow grapes. I'd heard that Northern California was ideal. And in 1852, I moved my family to San Francisco and searched for the perfect wine valley. When I found the Sonoma Valley, I realized I'd found the ideal wine valley upon our earth because of volcanic soil and maritime fog off the Bay and Ocean that make what I called purple gold. Buena Vista, huge success from the start. I will show you the buildings in a second, but now I'll tell you about the 2 remaining wines. Cabernet Sauvignon. I acquired cuttings of Cabernet Sauvignon when I visited Bordeaux in the summer of 1861. This grape, so redolent of flavor and aromas, is the quintessential grape of Bordeaux. And we have two choices for you. We have the North Coast Cabernet Sauvignon 2018. This is a value-priced Cabernet of extraordinary value and flavor. And then Chateau Buena Vista Napa Valley Cabernet in a oversized bottle meant to impress. Grapes from the central Napa Valley floor, Yountville to Rutherford to St. Helena. Brian Maloney, thank you for making perhaps the single best value and best taste of any Napa Valley Cabernet available in the wholesale market today. So, I started Buena Vista in 1857. I hired 150 Chinese workmen to do most of the work. They built the first stone winery buildings in California in front of the first wine caves in California. Every year for 8 years in a row, they planted 40,000 new grapevines. Now in 1866, my tragedy finally, the good time finally did stop. I had succeeded beyond my wildest dreams, was making 200,000 cases of wine a year, had 500 acres of grapevines. But sadly, an unknown vine disease destroyed my vines. I was blamed for the death of the vines. I was fired and went to Nicaragua to make rum in 1868. I'll wait until the last part of the story to tell you the sad ending. But first, I'll show you what this building in Champagne Cellars looks like from the outside. We are in our own canyon of the Mayacama, just 1 mile east of the Sonoma Town Plaza. You can see in the distance people enjoying wine. We are doing outdoor tastings here in the sun of Sonoma. We have our own creek next to the winery. And there it is, the Champagne Cellars, the second stone winery building in California, as this building in the distance is the first stone winery building in California. And now I shall finish my tale. It does become sad. You see, the unknown vine disease had destroyed my vines. I, in 1866, was bankrupt. Decided to do what I had to do, go someplace entirely new and begin all over again. An expert distiller. I made delicious brandy in 1868. I took half my family, my oldest son Geza, my wife Eleanor, and my daughter Ida, and we moved to Nicaragua. My dream was to make rum and rebuild my fortune. Things are very well in Nicaragua. At first. I formed a partnership with a sugar cane plantation owner to make the rum. We brought in beautiful copper kettles. I built a house for my family in the jungle next to a river. It was so exciting. I could have been Don Facundo Bacardi. Except for July 6, 1869, a date with destiny. On that day, I was exploring the sugar cane plantation by myself, crossing a river on a tree that grew over the river, used as sort of a natural bridge. The river was full of crocodiles. As I crossed over, I grabbed a hold of a branch. It broke in my hand. I slipped and fell into the river and was eaten by a crocodile. But I feel better now. Thank you, Wine Tasting with Winemakers, Kristen, Adam, and our winemaker, Brian Maloney. Thank you for choosing Buena Vista Winery. And thank you for having the Count on your show.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing this evening? My name is Adam. This is Kristen. We're with winemakerwinetastings.com, and we're very excited to have you this evening. A big shout out to the Count for taking on us a tour of Buena Vista. That was kind of cool.
He is very entertaining.
I would say so. Extremely entertaining. We liked him. He was great. So tonight we got a special show. If you don't know about Buena Vista, one of the oldest wineries in Napa Valley, started back in the 1800s, and truly one of the premier first wineries that was there. It kind of led the way for Napa. So we're obviously extremely excited to have Brian Maloney, the winemaker, on tonight. It's going to be a great show. We've got, I think, 5 wines that we're going to walk through tonight.
We do 5 different wines that Brian's going to walk us through. Hi, Brian. Everyone can see him.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Adam.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're here.
We appreciate you being here. So we're going to turn it over to you.
Yeah.
Let you do your thing, kind of walk us through the wines. And as we have questions that come through in our chat, myself and Kristen will kind of shoot them out there.
Well, sounds great. Thanks again. And I'm going to start. I got a bottle of that champagne the Count was talking about, so pop it right here. What a lovely pop to have. You know, as the Count was saying, we are, very special at Buena Vista for lots of reasons. We're considered in many ways California's first premium winery. And part of that connection really goes back to what we did with sparkling wine all the way back in the 1860s. The Count is quite the personality, but his sons, Attila and Arpad, were just as dynamic and just as, important contributors to winemaking. In fact, his son, Arpad Harasti, is credited as the first winemaker in California to make sparkling wine in the traditional method of champagne. And he did it right there in those caves that the Count was showing you. He went back, Arpad did, in the 1850s, and he trained at Devenoge in Epernay, France, learned the traditional methods. And then when his father journeyed to Europe in the early 1860s, the two of them collected cuttings of all the great grapevines from throughout Europe, including cuttings of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and then brought them back to plant at the winery in Sonoma. So it was a natural extension for us to kind of reestablish that relationship with champagne. The Boisset family, who I've had the great pleasure of working with now for going on 18 years, has some good friends in Champagne. And so several years back, we tasted through their cellars, and we were able to find this selection of 3 years aged Entourage, 70% Pinot Noir, 30% Chardonnay. And it's just got an amazing bouquet. This has also inspired a whole nother set of winemaking that we do at Buena Vista. We do work with this family out of Champagne, but we also produce several sparkling wines from the Carneros region, from the north coast of California, vineyards down in Marin County, in the Russian River Valley, Green Valley, places that have their own dynamic, different flavor profile than what you see in a true champagne, because it's California, it's a little bit riper, a little bit softer, but still beautiful, beautiful sparkling wines. But as we all know, everyone the world round wants their glass of champagne, and so we're very proud that we're able to present this Buena Vista true champagne for everyone. So I'm going to take a sip and a toast to all of you. Toast to the Count, of course. Oh, what a way to start the evening with some beautiful sparkling wine. What did you guys think of it?
I personally love it. We've talked briefly before the show started. Champagne is one of my favorites. And while Adam and I were sitting here sampling it, we were kind of going back and forth wondering what the characteristics you look for in a Pinot Noir and Chardonnay to decide the blend.
So, I always think of Pinot Noir being the base of great sparkling wines. It provides a generosity, a richness to it. Now, it takes a little bit longer for that to develop out. And so, when you hear about the time that the sparkling wine is aged, Entourage, when it's aged in the bottle with those yeasts that are producing all those bubbles, Pinot Noir sparkling wines always need a bit longer, 18 to 24 months minimum. And for the great ones, we're talking 3 years or beyond. And so the Pinot Noir is where you're getting that richness, that softness. To me, I get a little bit of a red fruit character coming out of the Pinot as well. I know that seems a little weird in this, white wine, but there is just a touch of almost like an underripe cherry element that comes out to me. The Chardonnay, on the other hand, is your driving force. It is your length. It is your acidity, your brightness, the structure of the wine, so to speak. And so while the Pinot Noir is that, kind of the soft mattress that you're laying on in the bed, I think a Chardonnay can, with a sparkling wine blend like this, can help you have a little bit more length and a little bit more structure to hold up all of that richness that the Pinot Noir has contributed.
Yeah, when we tasted this, even we got into a little bit earlier, the one thing we kind of both said is it's got a little bit more depth and backbone than some of the other traditional champagnes and bubbles we've had. I think a lot of times, especially here in the States, people are used to these these very crispy and pop in your mouth. And this actually, to me at least, it drinks more like a white wine in a sense with bubbles. Like it just has more mouthfeel, it has more depth. So it was, it caught me when she poured it. I was like, wow. I'm like, it wasn't what I expected at all.
Yeah, I think having a chance to really explore sparkling wines from around the world, but champagne in quite a bit of depth, you start to realize that often when we have those really aggressive bubbles, those younger bottlings, we get entranced by that feel, the mousse on your tongue, and you don't always taste it. There are people now who are decanting sparkling wines, decanting champagnes, in order to lessen that bubble, though, so that you can start appreciating it and seeing how that ages out. And that's, I think, why you see so many people, after they've been introduced to kind of the 18-month, 12-month aged sparkling wines, they start going on to the 3-year, 4-year, going into those vintage bottlings that maybe have been 10 years on Tourage to really, get some just delicious textures and flavors. And the richness that can come from champagne when you've aged it on the lees for that long is quite impressive.
Well, we're impressed. I mean, this is definitely one of the bigger, more robust and enjoyable champagnes. I mean, it sets itself different from a lot of other ones. Very unique.
Well, and one of the things the Count was showing at Buena Vista, we really do pride ourselves with our connection to sparkling wines. So those caves he showed you, that is literally where the very first sparkling wines were crafted in the United States. If you go and tour, you can actually see when the caves were originally built, the building that he was walking through was not there. It was just literal caves in the side of the hillside. And when they were aging the bottles for their secondary fermentation during the winter, it's very important to keep those bottles in a narrow range of around 50 to 60 degrees. And it can still get quite cold in the winter times in Sonoma. And so Arpad Harasti, he would light bonfires at the entry points of these caves in order to keep them warm enough for the secondary fermentation to complete. You can still today go to the entry points of those caves, and if you look up, you see the stain of all that smoke, fire after fire after fire, that he lit all through the 1860s in order to get those wines through their secondary fermentation. I mean, it kind of gives me chills just talking about it, because when you're there, the history is so deep. It is so much in those walls. And it's one of the reasons we've crafted that champagne, the champagne cellars for you guys to visit, that sparkling room that the Count started his tour with, because not only will you be able to taste our beautiful champagnes, and we have several of them that we work with, but also those sparkling wines I mentioned from throughout California that I actually get to craft. I wish I was a jet-setting winemaker flying back in the middle of harvest champagne during to pick those grapes for fermentation, but I'm pretty well set in Sonoma and Napa at that time period. So I only get to focus on the vineyards around me out in Sonoma and Napa.
Well, I mean, that's got to be like a questionable situation, because, I know as a winemaker, there's two parts to this, that there's viticulture and there's winemaking. So, but a lot of times that stuff crosses over. Like the winemaker wants to be a part of the viticulture and the harvests. Do they actually send you samples throughout the process so that you have a chance to taste them as they go along?
Well, the team in Champagne that we work with, they'll do the base fermentation. So no, they are very much oversight of the winemaking process until what we have is what we call base wines. Now, these are the wines prior to going back into the bottle for the secondary fermentation. And so at that point, we start tasting samples, and then we assemble our blend. And I know the Count said it was 70% Pinot, 30% Chardonnay. It does vary a percent or two depending on the vintage. It's not, exactly that. But it is pretty close to 70-30 every year. And the villages also do, shift a little bit in terms of the percentage for each given vintage that we produce. At that point, once we've assembled what we're going to have in our base wine, we go down into bottle. At that point, it's essentially a math problem. When you go down into the bottle, you're looking at how much sugar that you're going to put in there for that secondary fermentation by those yeast in the bottle to happen. And then after about a year, you start popping those bottles and seeing how everything tastes. We like to let this go for 3 years. And at that point, that's when we do what we call the dosage trial, which is the final part. And so again, at this point, they send out samples to us and we taste, and then we select the amount of residual sugar we want in that dosage, the liqueur dosage, that goes back in after we disgorge the bottle, when we actually let the yeast all settle to the top of the neck, and then pop them out. And then we will top it back up with that dosage. And that gives it a little bit more of a richness to the finished wine. And again, that varies a little bit vintage to vintage, usually between about 6.5 and 8 grams per liter, depending on the base of the wine that we're tasting. One of the goals with a champagne like this is to be very, very consistent year in, year out. And so that's where a small tweak, a percentage of Chardonnay more or less, maybe a little bit more sugar or less, depending on the vintage, is very important. And where we're tasting quite rigorously all these bottlings as we go through.
It definitely sounds like a serious process.
It's pretty fun too. I mean, you have the opportunity to have a dozen bottles of champagne in front of you that you're tasting through.
It's not a bad problem to have.
I will say it is one of the tastings where the bottles do end up becoming take homes. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Those are great for Sunday brunch.
And I think we're more than willing to try these things, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we can come out and we can help.
Please let us know when you're coming out. I'd love to have you because we end up doing dosage trials, not just on the champagnes, but also, like I said, on the sparkling wines that we're making out of the Green Valley, out of the Carneros. It's a great process. Our team really loves to dive into it and taste through all those trials and make sure that year in, year out, we have a wine that really comes into balance, because even though vintage to vintage may be different, that dosage is our little secret weapon to keep the consistency in these sparkling wines.
Well, you guys are doing something right, so well done, sir.
Thank you.
So our next wine on our list, I think we got the Chardonnay from Carneros, correct?
Yes, sir.
We'll run through this one a little bit. Anyone out there that is on the champagne, it is now time to finish your champagne and move on to your Chardonnay.
Well, thank you. Chardonnay is one of the things I fell in love with in winemaking quite early on. Was 2005, and I remember this quite clearly. It was on my birthday, and I had a chance to have a 12-year-old Grand Cru Corton Charlemagne for my birthday, and it was one of the most amazing experiences. And to this day, I don't know quite how to describe all the different layers and textures, but it was at that point that I realized I truly did love Chardonnay, and I will never understand how people can't fall in love with what is really the most exceptional white grape to me. And so I have spent the last 15 years trying to craft a wine of that same level and exception, quality that I wish I could say I have reached it, but I am still trying. I've made some fantastic Chardonnays along the way, though, and I have to say that the Carneros is a very special place to do that. We work with great family growers in the Carneros. So the San Giacomo family in particular has been farming grapes in that area for over 100 years. I was introduced to them by a good friend and mentor of mine, David Ramey. And really early on, we knew we wanted to partner with them in really bringing this Carnero Chardonnay to its absolute height. And I think we've really reached it with this wine today. The style of this wine is to me very straightforward. It is the classic style of Chardonnay. You pick these grapes by hand. You pick them when they have great richness to them, but at the same time still retain that natural acidity that we're able to have because of those qualities the Count was looking for when he came to Sonoma so many years ago. It is volcanic soils and then cool coastal influences, fog and wind coming off the cold Pacific day in, day out, that helps those grapes keep nice and crisp and matches that richness we get from the California sun. So we hand pick them. They come in, they're all whole cluster pressed, so no destemming, no machines, just goes into the press, and then it goes down into our French and Hungarian oak barrels. And at that point, it goes through a natural fermentation process, the native yeast from the vineyards, from the winery, the things that live there all the time, year in, year out. They do this fermentation in the barrel for us. And then after about a month, we have wine. It's, often I think the most special thing and most kind of like exciting thing as a winemaker is you're going through the cellar. You've kind of tucked these Chardonnay barrels away for a little bit. You're focusing on the red wines, and then you go back into the cellar and you start, taking the bungs off, start, putting your nose into the barrel, start listening to them, hearing the popping of the yeast, smelling those beautiful aromatic start, and right around the end of October, usually we start to see the malolactic, that creaminess and the butteriness that you get from our Chardonnay start to develop out. And that's an important symbol to me, because that means our wine is kind of, reaching that next stage. That's when we start stirring those lees, really, building up the body and texture of the wine, making it rich and making it soft. But at the same time, because we have that beautiful acidity, the length in the glass just is retained throughout the whole aging process. And then actually right around now, we just have this tomorrow, actually, I'm going to be going through our Chardonnays, and we will be hopefully complete with that malolactic fermentation. We will go through, we'll smell, we'll taste, and at that point, we'll start actually having this, essentially finished wine that we can really start now judging the overall quality that we have from the vintage. And so all this time, all we've really been doing is just stirring those leaves very gently, fluffing them up, giving the body, giving the texture, helping that malolactic fermentation complete. And then in another year, we'll be putting this wine into bottle and capturing all the richness that Carneros has. And I think the Chardonnay is one of the best ones out there in the market right now. I mean, there's such intensity to it, but also just incredible length and brightness to it. And that's going back to that first wine I talked about, that Corton Charlemagne. That is one of the things that I think I've always been amazed by great Chardonnay, is the intensity that they can have, but also the brightness and the length and elegance that they can have. They're just incredibly beautiful, powerful wines when done well. And I like to think that, I've been able to craft a few along the way that have reached those heights.
The Chardonnay, I mean, I love that. In fact, you get a lot of that absolute creaminess in the Chardonnay for sure. I know this reserve comes from Carneros. Do you guys have in the past, and I don't know if like the North Coast series or some of their stuff, do you guys pull fruit other areas in Carneros for some of your other versions of it?
Yeah, so we work with it's about 50 acres of vineyard in the Sonoma Carneros primarily, but then also we work with vineyards for our North Coast series up in Mendocino County, as well as in the Sonoma Valley proper, so north of Carneros, but still near the town of Sonoma. And so most of our North Coast is coming from Mendocino County as well as the Sonoma Valley. Now, that's a little bit different style of wine for the North Coast, because the Mendocino County fruit coming right around the town of Ukiah, a little bit warmer climate, doesn't quite get the coastal influence because of the blocking effect of the coast range. And so we do a stainless steel fermentation style on those wines to help retain that acidity. I'm a winemaker who really believes in balance and paying attention to the site itself, letting the site kind of dictate directions. And when I see a site that's a little bit warmer for a white grape like Chardonnay, I usually go towards that stainless steel fermentation. The fruit from right around the town of Sonoma, the Sonoma Valley fruit, now that is primarily barrel fermented. That is barrel fermented as well. It's treated very much in the same way that we do our Carneros Chardonnay.
Perfect. I mean, it's good to know, because like I know like Buena Vista has such a diverse amount of different wines, whether it's the North Coast and going to the reserves and so forth. So you guys being as around as long as you have, I'd assume that you have little vineyard pockets all over the place that you're pulling fruit from.
We do. For the most part, we're concentrated on the North Coast in terms of the vineyards we work with. Sonoma in particular is, being where we're located, the town of Sonoma is really the backbone to what we do. But we also have an estate vineyard over in the Napa Valley in St. Helena. And then we have partner vineyards up in Mendocino County where, we have some Chardonnay that we work with. We also have some, if you come by the winery, we have some great old vine Carignan coming out of Mendocino County as well. And then we actually, several years back, were able to partner with the oldest continual vineyard in California, the Deaver Vineyard up in Amador County. These vines date back to the Count's time, essentially, 1856. These are the mission vines, so they aren't even one that you would typically see. This isn't even Old Vine Zinfandel. This is Old Vine Mission, the first grape to come to California. And we bottle a little bit of that in the Angelica style. And that's a historic style wine in California, kind of somewhat in between like a Madeira and a port in terms of its flavor profile. So much more of a dessert style, but very special having access to what is the oldest vineyard in all of California.
So is that your fountain of youth? That's what you guys feed the Count to keep them around for 200 plus years? That's the secret sauce there in Buena Vista.
I don't know what magic John Charles used to conjure him up, but I can only imagine that the zombie process must have been very complex after the crocodile ate him.
Yeah, right. I mean, he looks great for 200-some years old. He's doing well.
He's an amazing guy, and honestly, one of the pleasures I have is being able to hang out with him and hear the historical background to a lot of what's happened in Sonoma and beyond. The Count has a lot of knowledge when it comes to the historical aspects of Sonoma, from whether it's the Bear Flag Revolt that happened just a mile away from Buena Vista, to all the different cuttings and techniques and the generations of winemakers that came out of Buena Vista. Essentially, you have a lineage starting with Buena Vista that then connects to Charles Krug, that connects to Behringer Brothers, connects to our sister winery, Raymond. And so, I mean, there is this history that is very tangibly connected to Buena Vista for so many of the great wineries throughout Napa and Sonoma.
Very cool. I mean, the lessons on the first two whites we had are incredible. I mean, I don't know how many people have a chance to really get into these reserves. I think, you know, your typical wine drinker is going to probably dive into these North Coast first because they want to get an idea of representation of the winery and the style that you guys are doing. And then you get into these reserves. I mean, they're phenomenal. So.
Well, thank you. Yeah, when you get into what we call the Chateau series, the Chateau wines, which you know, we talk about the building itself being the historic connection. We really have a style of wine that we feel needs to stand up to the historic impression that Buena Vista has had, and so they are very impressive wines. They're wines we're very proud of, and ones that have, you know, for us, become quite well regarded by critics and consumers all throughout the world now.
Well,
so it looks
like
like
into your awesome reserves, because we have two really great reserves tonight, the Red Blend and the Cabernet. We did bring in one of the North Coast series tonight just so we can introduce it and explain a little bit about this. And I think it's important. I mean, you know, with the reserves and the Chateau series, it's very distinguished. The North Coast has a little bit more broadness to it and an ability to like pull some different things. So I think these are your go-to stuff that you're going to see on a very regular basis at more of your local boutique wine shops, even some of your like higher end wine grocery stores and so forth. So we just support ourselves to sample the North Coast cab. So if you could take us on the tour of the North Coast series, that'd be great.
You know, and actually there's some of the vineyards that we work with the North Coast and also the proprietary Red Blend, there's some overlap there because I've been able to establish great relationship with growers all up and down what we call the Mayakama Mountains. So this is the chain of, really, if you come and visit us, you'll probably call them hills, but you know, the mountains that divide between Napa County and Sonoma County and stretch all the way up into Mendocino and Lake counties. They're volcanic in origin. You know, there's a great red soil and ash deposits throughout these mountainsides, as well as areas that were uplifted, and you have clays and sands as well. But this is where I love to pull fruit from for this North Coast. So, you know, from the Red Hills in Lake County, where some of the Cabernet is coming from, all the way down into the new Fountain Grove district, as well as down into the foothills of the Sonoma Valley. We have a tremendous selection of Cabernet. Most of this is, I take that back. This is all being fermented, what we call an extended maceration. So just like what we do with our Chateau series wines with the reds, we bring this in, we handpick the fruit, and then it goes in the tank and does a very slow fermentation. And then after about 2 weeks or so, we actually start kind of warming this up and really trying to coax out some of the richness that we can get, especially from those volcanic soil sites in Lake County, and especially from the sites in Sonoma Valley. If we just warm it up a little bit, keep it on its skins for a couple more weeks, we really get some nice, dense flavor characteristics that come out in this wine. Now, it does have a little bit more brightness to it compared to the Chateau. This isn't Valley Floor, Napa Valley. So I typically see a little bit more of a red fruit profile to it. Not quite the same structure that you'll get out of the Napa Valley, but still a very impressive Cabernet, and one that I think anyone who has it on their table is going to, you know, have a good time enjoying.
So just out of curiosity, how many different North Coast wines are there? We've seen the Cab, the Count, which I believe is the Red Blend.
So the Count's a Sonoma County wine. That's kind of its own little thing.
Okay.
But we do a North Coast Pinot Noir, a North Coast Chardonnay, a North Coast Cabernet Sauvignon, a North Coast Zinfandel, and a North Coast Merlot.
Okay. Are they pretty much price point very similar across the board, or?
Yeah, within $1 or $2. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like this.
Depends on the market and all that.
I do. And I also feel like we did a food pairings a couple weeks ago, just a brief introduction to wine and food pairings. And I feel like this would have done really well with the lamb chops. We did lollipop lamb chops with a little bit of rosemary. And I feel like this would be perfect, complement it perfectly. It doesn't like overwhelm the flavors, and I feel like it would bring it all together just beautifully.
I agree. I wouldn't classify this as a traditional, what you might some call a California fruit bomb, like that big explosive. It's like a subtle, more elegant style Cabernet a little bit.
Yeah, we're pulling from a lot of, literally from mountain fruit. And I know people usually associate that with, being really expensive Napa Cab. But as soon as you get over to the county line, whether it's in Lake County or in Sonoma County, which surround Napa, so Lake County's above it, Sonoma County's to the west of it, it becomes something that we can use in a bottle that's really quite reasonable. And it doesn't quite get the same richness. Napa is one of the greatest places on earth to grow the Cabernet Sauvignon grape. So we're not quite to that level, but we are still, we're next door neighbors, and they are some fantastic sites that we work with. And so there is a little bit more refinement to it. We are working on rocky soils. We're not down on the valley floor with a lot of richness, but we have, I think, an elegance to it and a length to it, while still having some nice ripe flavors to it. It's more of a little brother wine to our Napa wine, as opposed to trying to mimic it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It's almost spicy. A little spicy, right? A little spicy, a little savory.
I do. I even get a little anise in there too.
Well, we do put this down into some barrels, so it does age in some new American as well as some new French oak. A smaller percentage compared to the Napa, but a higher percentage of the American oak, which is a bit of a spicier, more intense barrel. So that may be some of what that anise that you're getting is.
Okay.
It's delicious.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I am too.
We're gonna have to do a whole tasting just on North Coast wines.
North Coast is, I think, one of the most underrated parts of the wine world. Whether you're in, there's essentially 4 counties in the North Coast: Mendocino, Lake, Sonoma, and Napa. Napa gets a lot of the glory when it comes to Cabernet, but there's pockets in Mendocino and Lake in particular that are phenomenal and really undiscovered when it comes to what they can do with Cabernet Sauvignon. Those pockets in Sonoma have started to become discovered, so it's not quite as easy down there. But we still have some great sites, especially in the Sonoma Valley and up in the Fountain Grove district that we can play with in this wine.
Just out of curiosity, this North Coast series compared to the Chateau series, what are we talking differences in production? Obviously, the North Coast is going to get out there a lot more. How much are you making of the North Coast stuff compared to the Chateau stuff?
When we get to the last wine, typically when we look at like the North Coast Chardonnay versus the Chateau Chardonnay, it's about twice as much of the North Coast versus the Chateau. But our Chateau Cabernet Sauvignon has exploded, and it is by far the wine that we are selling the most of throughout the country and beyond. We are making, we are planting vineyards like crazy. Let me put it that way, because of how popular that wine has become.
Well, we enjoy the North Coast. I think it's phenomenal. I mean, it's nice, and these are great affordable wines for people. I mean, people are looking for a Monday night porch pounder type of wine. These are great wines. I mean, you can pair them with a lot of different things. They're diverse. It's versatile. So they're really good. So I'm glad that we were able to squeeze this one into the tasting tonight.
I'm excited about the next 2 though.
I know she's like, I want the red blend. I want the red blend.
We haven't even sampled it. I have been waiting for this.
Honestly, this is the wine that I, about 6 months ago, bought 2 cases of, and I've already gone through both of them. This is one of my favorite wines I've made in the last, year and a half. And I think it's absolutely delicious, but also very layered and very, has a lot going on. It's not just one of those, you sip it and it's really impressive and you have to put it down. It's one of those, you sip it and then you realize your bottle's empty and that's time to go open another one. So yeah, I love this wine.
That gets you like dancing in your kitchen while you're cooking?
Yeah, I don't know if my wife calls it dancing. She might anyway.
Hey man, you get through a bottle of wine, dancing's dancing.
That's for sure. But so this is kind of a classic Bordeaux style with a small little Buena Vista connection. The backbone to it is our Cabernet Sauvignon vineyards that we work with in the Napa Valley. So we have an estate vineyard in St. Helena, as well as partner vineyards down in Oak Knoll and over in the eastern foothills of Napa County. And so that's the backbone of the Cabernet portion to it. But then we have a great Merlot site that we're working with in the northern reaches of Sonoma, up in the Dry Creek Valley, and then little bits and pieces of Cab Franc coming out of the Knights Valley area to the kind of just to the other side of Calistoga and Sonoma County. And so that's, kind of your classic Bordeaux style. But then, we had a little twist. We were tasting this with our teams, and we were talking about the history of Buena Vista and, why are we just replicating that Bordeaux style? Why don't we, put a little bit of connection to some of the things that the Count did, which he was a big believer in red blends. And so we brought one of the grapes that he is historically connected with. There's lots of myths and legends about the Count. You might have picked up that earlier. One of them is that he was the man who brought Zinfandel to California. And so in one of our blend trials at the very end, kind of just on a whim, I ended up putting in a very small amount, about 5% of Zinfandel into this. And we actually showed this to a group of wine executive people who distributor buyers from across the country. And I remember putting this out there and telling one of our actual VP of sales what I had done, and he thought it was going to be a disaster. He's like, no, you're going to have to rework this. All of these people, every single one of these guys, and I mean, and women, they're tasting this wine. They absolutely fell in love with it, and it was amazing to see the response. And it was one of those, I knew exactly what I needed to do the next day. So we finished off our blend, put it together, and we've had some tremendous response to this, especially since this was a wine that, we were just launching right as COVID broke out. So, everyone's going into shutdown, and we have this wine that is absolutely delicious. And it was like, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And bit by bit, as we've been able to get it out, we've seen it explode, especially in the Southeast right now. We're seeing great response in Louisiana, in Florida. And so I'm really excited that you guys have a bottle of it to enjoy. And like I said, it's become one of my favorites to have just at my house.
It's phenomenal. I'm not going to lie to you. If we went back into shutdown mode, I would have to order a case or two. And I wouldn't even share. It's phenomenal.
Well, and she was even saying, like, you were talking about how, like, women really, you could see how women really enjoy this because, like, I don't want to use the wrong terminology, but it has like a soft feminine side to it. Like, it's very silky. It's very smooth. It's very palatable. It's just a very well-balanced wine.
Yeah, I like I said, I have no problem going through a bottle of it myself. I sometimes share, but we had like I said, great response. We have one of the few female MWs in the United States down in the Florida area. She brought in about 150 cases of this for her different resorts and restaurants that she buys for. So we've had some great response to this wine, and I think it's just a matter of time. To be able to introduce more and more people to it. So thanks for pulling a bottle and, giving me a chance to talk about it.
Well, we're really happy that the local distributor had some available that we could grab. So That's a good thing. So we looked at the label and, it sees, we talk about red blends and we talk about this one. Actually, most bottles will say varietal blends. They'll say Merlot, Cabernet, etc. And this thing, the biggest thing that pops on the top is Sonoma Napa blend.
Yes.
I mean, is there a method to the madness on this one? Like, I mean, they were really focusing on pulling fruit from two different counties and varietal-wise. I mean, you sneaking in on like small percentages of stuff that's not on labels. Because I know in California and every other places have rules and regulations and how you can call things and what goes in them and so forth.
Well, so, the interesting thing when we put down the counties like that with the percentages, we end up actually kind of really tying our hands. So, there are certain rules. So if I make a Sonoma County Pinot Noir, for example, only 75% of those grapes actually have to come from Sonoma County. But when I put the percentages down of Sonoma Napa on that label, those percentages have to be accurate to what's in the bottle. There is no wiggle room for something coming out. So that's exactly what it is. In terms of this wine and the inspiration, it really comes back to Buena Vista's history. And we were talking about how we have Sonoma wines, our Carnera Chardonnays coming out of Sonoma, our Sonoma Coast Pinots coming out of Sonoma, but at the same time, we have our Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. We have Petit Verdot coming out of the Napa Valley. How are we, we're kind of playing both sides of the hill. And the thing is, Buena Vista has been doing that since its beginnings. When the Count bought his property, when he bought Buena Vista, it was a property where the winery itself sits in Sonoma, but the vineyards are actually on both sides of the Mayakama. Some are in the Napa Valley and some in Sonoma Valley. And that stayed true throughout its entire history. So today we have property, we have vineyards in Napa Valley, we have vineyards in Sonoma Valley, and this was a way of us really uniting that story, having this wine that was both in Sonoma as well as in Napa. And it just so happens, I also think it provides me as a winemaker an opportunity to use really complementary vineyards. Places like the Dry Creek Valley, which you get tremendous mid-palate textured Merlot, just really, really rich stuff, but doesn't quite have that same length and depth and complexity that you see with Cabernet coming out of St. Helena, for example. And so this, I think, gave me an opportunity to make this style of wine that I really enjoy. And I think is something I wish we had more opportunities like this to kind of, blur the lines a little bit, so to speak, and work outside and use vineyards that are complementary each other, especially when you look at these maps and how appellations are drawn. Sometimes it's just crazy that there's a line in between places. You have wineries on the, in the hills between Sonoma and Mountain that literally, Sonoma and Napa, that are literally, on both sides of the county line. It's kind of silly that we have, such strict rules that prevent us from really blending across those county lines when there's a lot of similarities and complementary parts to those grapes and those vineyards.
Brian, quick question.
Yes.
It might be random. But are any of the varietals used for this blend used to make the Count or the Sheriff?
So some of the Cabernet Sauvignon overlaps for both the North Coast Cabernet, the Chateau Cabernet actually, and this wine. We have some tremendous cab vineyards that I get to play around with and spread the love, so to speak.
I appreciate that.
Well, that happens a lot. You see winemakers very regularly. They go through their barrels. They pick their favorite barrels. Those will go in the reserve series. And the ones that maybe they might think are just not quite where they want them to be will be used for making various blends. And, at my wine shop, we've had the Count and the Sheriff before, and they're great, great wines. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes some of those reserve barrels make their way down the line. So we were just curious because I haven't seen this before. This is relatively new. So.
Yeah, like I said, this the 2018 vintage was the first vintage of it. We bottled it late 2019, and then of course, everything kind of shut down. So we were kind of caught with a great wine that just didn't have a chance to really get out there. But it's showing beautifully, and we've, like I said, in the last several months, we've gotten some tremendous responsive things have started to open up. So we're really excited. I have a 2019 vintage that. Is ready to go in the bottle here shortly. So I can't wait to, keep spreading it around for everyone.
I'm excited for that one as well.
Yeah, the red blend's phenomenal. There's a couple of people in our chat board. Someone said they picked it up today, and it's one of their favorite wines tasting this evening. This is the red blend. So it's obviously very, very well received by people.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
So, all right, we got one more, right? She's so sad. She wants to drink the red blend. Let's have that more.
Yeah, we do.
Well,
I can't reach it, but
I think you're gonna, Kristen. I think you're gonna enjoy this last one. This is the Chateau Napa Valley Cabernet, and in 2012 we were celebrating a lot of things. It was the 200th birthday of the Count of Buena Vista. It was Augustin Harasti's 200th birthday. And so we made and it was also the year that we were able to reopen what we call the Chateau. The old winery buildings had been condemned after the '89 earthquake. And so these buildings have been shut for over a decade, since 1989 to 2012, so for almost 25 years. We reopened this site, and we had this great celebration, and we decided, John Charles Boisset, myself, that we were going to make a wine to honor this. And it was, well, let's make a small amount of Napa Valley Cabernet. If we're going to call this wine the Chateau, make it an important wine, make it from what we feel is one of the best growing areas in all the world. And so we made about 100 cases of it. It was a very small amount. It was phenomenally received. And so the next vintage in 2013, we made a few more. And then we saw such great just reception of this wine. We went out and we actually in late 2014 bought our own estate vineyard in the St. Helena to become the backbone to this wine. And since then, we've continued to expand our vineyard holdings, working with partner sites. And now Chateau Buena Vista has grown to be what we consider one of the great Cabernet Sauvignons you can get from the Napa Valley, just about anywhere. The backbone to it is great Cabernet coming out of the valley floor of the valley itself. So the Napa Valley has 2 mountain ranges on each side, and then this beautiful valley from Oak Knoll all the way up to Calistoga. And that's essentially where we're pulling our Cabernet Sauvignon grapes from all those different districts. And then I blend in a small amount of fruit from our small amount of Cabernet Franc fruit from our estate vineyard in St. Helena, and a little bit of Petit Verdot from just outside of Calistoga. Really gives you a little bit more structure, a little bit more length. All of them are fermented separately using the finest techniques, hand-picked fruit. Everything is berry sorted, does these extended maceration in tanks, goes down into beautiful new French, Hungarian, and American oak barrels. And then we age everything separately for about 14 months. At that point, after about 14 months, we make our initial blend. And then I actually bring in a little bit more new oak, adjust the intensity of the wine, and put it back down for about another 14 months. And my goal here is really to make a wine that is ready to drink. So many Napa Valley Cabernets, I feel, are, served to people too young. And they're released after they've only been in barrel for about 16, 18 months. They come out and they're shut down. And people have this expectation, well, I need to give it a few more years. Well, what I've tried to do as a winemaker is introduce that aging on the barrel side, where there actually is a little bit more oxygen exchange that happens in the wine. It tends to relax those tannins, make them a little bit more approachable, so that when you're getting this wine about 6 months after it's been bottled, it actually is ready to drink. And I think that's one of the reasons we've seen such great reception to it, because it has that intensity that people expect from the Napa Valley, but it has that accessibility that sometimes it's very hard to find from the Napa Valley. And it's beautiful, beautiful wine, and I hope you guys are enjoying it just as much as I am.
All right, I've decided to take my first sip with you, so you can watch my face as I experience this. Adam's already had it and loves it, so here we go.
Let's see the reaction.
Brian, honestly, I've always been a massive, massive fan. And if you look in my basement of my wine cellar right now, there's 2 6-packs down there of a couple different vintages, 15, 16, and now 18. I missed the 17, so I'm missing my vertical.
17 was a very small vintage for us because of what happened in 17, and so we 17 was a fire year, and because of that, there wasn't as much fruit that we felt was worthy of being used.
And we were going to ask about that too. Like, how much have you guys been affected over the past, couple years? I mean, those fires were pretty dramatic. Like, it was pretty rough. Like, the stuff that I saw was kind of heartbreaking. I mean, I know a lot of in the upper mountains and so forth got, like Soda Canyons area. I mean, it was really, really sad. So how badly did it affect you guys?
Well, there's on different levels, right? So, as we have partner growers of ours. In fact, great people that we've been partners with on Diamond Mountain made, phenomenal wine with. Actually, our 2018 vintage coming out of this vineyard just got 98 points from Robert Parker. I mean, phenomenal site. And it absolutely burned to the ground last year, and it's gone, So, I mean, there's that extreme. On the other hand, I think we've become much more cognizant of what it takes to prevent these fires from coming into our communities. And, this latest set of fires, while it did singe parts of Santa Rosa, it was much, much less damaging than previous years. And I think we're becoming a much more fire-aware community. In terms of our vineyard holdings, we've been very lucky. We've had a few partner sites that have been burned, but for the most part, our own estate sites have been untouched. But that hasn't meant that it hasn't been close. In 2017, the fire literally came to the stones of Buena Vista. In fact, if you come and visit, you can see literally where the fire basically ended, right where the building's standing. So it's something we've become a little too used to in a way. But we've also, I think, are tough people and adaptable people, and we're doing what we can to make amazing wines. We've had to make some tough decisions. 2017 was one where we had to be pretty severe in terms of what we were able to use in our Chateau Cab. Luckily, 2020, even though the fires were quite dramatic again, just the way that the air currents worked and the timing of when those fires came through, most of our Cabernet Sauvignon is fine. Unfortunately, our Petit Verdot is not the same case. So our 2020 Chateau Cab is not going to have. It'll have a very small amount of Petit Verdot in it, but it won't have the same percentage that it would typically, just because we have to make those severe choices and make sure we're making a great wine no matter what the conditions we're faced with.
Yeah, I mean, we can only imagine. I mean, we have friends all across that California area, and we work with people over the years, and just the stories you've heard over the past 3-4 years are just, it's rough. I mean,
it's devastating, right? It's life-changing.
But we're getting through it, and I think all of us across the country have had to adapt to different times this past year, and it's something us here up in wine country have had a little bit more experience with these fires now, and we're adapting to it. We're making decisions. And honestly, I think a lot of us feel very, very positively about the future. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on in Sonoma and Napa. I hope people, if you get a chance to come and visit us, please do. Buena Vista is one of the most beautiful places on earth. The little canyon where it's located, it's like stepping back into time. And it is, whether it's in the caves or out on the patios, just a very beautiful spot. And a lot of Sonoma and Napa, whether you're driving up Valley or whether you're going out towards the Redwoods, it's, are there burn scars? Of course there are. But there's tremendous regrowth going on right now. The foothills above where I live in Calistoga are absolutely flooded with wildflowers. So, there is that next step that's happening. And it's, I think, a good step for all of us to embrace and keep on moving forward to, enjoy good wine and good people.
Absolutely. And you guys are finally, actually, I believe, in a spot where your tasting room is starting to open up again. You guys are being able to start setting some stuff up. Can you just share a little bit with that? Because I know, we're right on that cusp. And California's been obviously probably a little more strict than maybe some other states. So are you guys finally being able to offer wine tastings and so forth? Yes. So
Sonoma County has been open for by appointment reservations for about a month now. And so all you got to do is go to buenavistawinery.com. You can go in there. You can make a reservation. You can make a same-day reservation if you just happen to be in the area. You can call the website. We'd love to have you come out. Everything currently is being done outside, but we have pretty beautiful weather in California most of the year, and we have really expansive grounds at Buena Vista for people to enjoy themselves. So if they feel more comfortable being a little bit spaced out, there's plenty of locations for that to happen. And then, we're hoping within the next month or so, it looks like probably mid-April to late May, we're going to be able to start having a few more experiences, things like, receptions with food and things like that, starting to become part of what we normally do. We love to have winemaker dinners. We love to have, events where we can marry that food and wine pairing on the site itself. And hopefully sometime midsummer, we'll be able to, invite people back to see the caves inside as well. It's we're all itching to get going with that. So hopefully sooner than later, we'll all be back to, a better place.
Well, I mean, we've already been talking about when we're going to start planning our trip out there. So, and we're going to come and see you most definitely, because, you can't come.
Thank you. Please, as soon as you got your plans, let me know. Love to take you around Buena Vista. Love to take you to some of our vineyards as well. It's a beautiful place, and I love sharing it.
Very good. Just so you know, I'm sitting here, and Kristen's tasting her Cabernet, and she's got this look on her face. Would you like to share with everyone how much you're thoroughly enjoying this Cabernet?
Okay, so truthfully and in full transparency, I expected this to overload my palate. And it didn't. It's real silky and it's real velvety. And this makes me very excited. I love it. And I didn't think I would love it more than the red blend.
Well, thank you. And like I said, I mean, my goal is to give wines that people love and want to drink. And there's no better sound than the sound of an empty bottle to me. That's what I want to hear, because that means I have some good fans, and I think I might have some visitors
too, right?
Yeah. And Brian has a family, and he's got things to do, and we have stolen a lot of his time tonight, and we very, very much appreciate it. Brian, I'm going to talk. I know that you got to go, but I am going to talk. When I talk about your wine club, because you guys have a really cool wine club. Yeah. You have a rewards program. You're offering 1,000 points right now for people that sign up. There's a couple different options, so I'll get into all that. But let us thank you very much for joining us this evening, walking us through your wines, and obviously teach. Hey, there he is.
This is Nathan. Just wanted to say hi quick.
Hi.
Well, hey, Kristen, Adam, thank you so much for having us. This has been a lot of fun, and can't wait to see you guys out in wine country.
Most definitely. All the best to you, and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
All right.
We'll talk soon. Cheers.
Cheers.
He was so cute.
Yeah, it's nice when you got the little ones that come in. I mean, especially in Europe, they're usually just drinking wine over there. So, I mean, I would be that guy if I had a little 8-year-old run around. Here's a little thimble. Have your wine. Enjoy yourself. So.
Thimble? They deserve a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
So, just we were getting into the idea of the Buena Vista Wine Club. It is an awesome, awesome club, and there's a million wineries you can get into, but sometimes you run into a couple of those wineries that are extra special, and I think Buena Vista really is one of those. Mm-hmm. Go to their website, click on their membership, and you can get some information on their wine club. Got some really cool incentives right now for you. A couple different wine clubs you can join, whether you like whites, whether you like reds, and so forth. So obviously, please check them out. We will try to get them back on in the future. We love our friends at Buena Vista, phenomenal wines. Which was your favorite tonight?
Oh man, you put me on the spot.
I know, it's super tired.
I know. I don't know what to do. Guacamole. I like the red blend, but I also like the other one.
The cab?
Yeah.
Personally,
we should just order a case of each and call it a day.
That's not a bad idea.
No, man.
It's definitely not a bad idea.
No.
For me, I'll be honest with you, I've had this cab for a while. Been drinking it for a while. Like I told them, I've got 2 6-packs in the basement, but that red blend blew me away. It's just, I don't know. Like it's really one of those wines that you could pair with almost anything. Like you said, lamb chops and some spicy sauces and even red meats and so forth.
Dancing in the kitchen.
And dance in the kitchen. And you know what? Maybe we'll actually do a show with Brian dancing in the kitchen. You never know.
Or what he calls dancing. We should consult his wife on it.
We probably should. When was the last time you saw a winemaker dance in his kitchen? We could be the first people to ever do it.
Yeah, we could.
We could. Although I've seen Jean-Charles dance in his kitchen. And I see him dancing on bar stools and everything. He's a very talented fellow.
He's hysterical.
He is. He's great.
He's great. And his video is great. And the tour was great. It makes me want to leave Ohio.
You're going to California.
Right now.
Excuse me. We're out of here. Let's go.
Anyway, do you want to talk about what's coming up?
Yeah, we've got some cool shows coming up. We've got some new wineries that signed up.
Yeah.
We've been doing a nice little combination of some education classes. We've got a Cabernet tasting coming up. We also have
March 31st.
There you go.
Right. So March 31st, 8 p.m. we have a cab class, and that's between you and me and everybody out there. I'm sure we'll find something fun and creative to do in terms of our apparel. Tonight we had to look
fastidious.
Dapper.
What's your other education class?
Well, April 14th comes next, right? Because then we have March 31st and then Easter. So happy Easter to those of you that celebrate Easter. If not, drink some wine anyway. April 14th is Mumbo Jumbo.
Oh, yeah, with Mr. Hunter Fogel.
Which everyone should be familiar with.
Right. He's been doing a bunch of shows with us, Treasure Hunter, One-Time Spaceman, all that good stuff. So, and he has a brand new Cabernet that he is introducing this year in the Mumbo Jumbo line. So that will be the 14th.
Wait a minute. Mumbo Jumbo's elephants, correct?
I do believe so.
Does that mean we can get you to dress up like them?
Maybe we can bring in a baby elephant for our show.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
I will call
me and animals.
I will call the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo.
Oh, we could do it in the elephant cage.
That could be
cross. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, we've digressed. April 21st is the next wine class that you're talking about, and it's bang for your buck. So the description's online. We're going to have all the wines online so everyone can get them ahead of time and join with us, drink with us. Bang for your buck is probably going to be one of my favorites.
I can understand it. And we're going to have probably, I'm going to probably select with Kristen. We're going to pick out like 10 or 15.
And sample them all.
And there you have it, folks.
It'll be good.
It will be. And there's going to be stuff from like Portugal, Spain,
Yeah.
California. Some really, really awesome value wine. You don't need to go to a grocery store and buy a $2 chuck.
Nope.
If you want to save money, which we all do, sometimes it's tough to rip a $50 bottle on a Monday night. But, well, we do it. But it's nice to have some nice value wine. So that one's on there. And then today we actually booked a new show.
Which is your guy, which
I'm super excited about.
The Count, again.
We have 2 counts. We have the Count from Buena Vista, and then we have a Count from Italy. We're going to be coming to you live from Italy in the Chianti region. It will be a Friday night show instead of a Wednesday night show. Obviously, there's a 5-hour difference between Eastern Standard Time and the Chianti region. So it'll be 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on that Friday, April 30th.
Which says to me, wine party.
Yeah. So
it's a Friday, right?
Yeah.
6:30 p.m. gives you time to get off work, take a moment, refresh. You've already probably gotten your wine from Red Wine and Brew, or
yeah, they're one of our favorites. We also work with, if you're down in the Hudson area, North End, Scott's down there. He's got a great shop. He can bring you wine.
Yeah. Canton area, we have Grapes in a Glass.
Yeah, Grapes in a Glass from Tamara. She's another one of our partner retailers. So you can pick up wines from any of these locations. And then obviously we've got locations all over. We've got Phoenix, we've got Florida, we've got Texas. So we'll post all the names of the shops that will be carrying these wines as well for you. So there's some cool stuff. We also will be released in probably 2 days. If you like Pinot Noir, especially that Burgundian style Pinot Noir, we've got John Tomaselli and hopefully Jacques Tardet will be able to join us. They are from Torrey Moore in the Dundee Hills. So we'll be able to showcase some of their wines. They do some Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, Chardonnays, and some really radical, awesome Pinot Noir. So they're going to be on the schedule too. Yep. And I can't tell you any more after that because it's too much.
It is. But I'm very excited, and I would like to pull in a wine party. So we should do something fun for the wine party. Like first person that contacts us with 5 to 7 or more people, we'll send you a sample bottle.
I like that idea.
You like that idea?
I think we can do that.
Yeah. Why not?
So if you have a wine party at your home, we will send you a link. We will pull you into our show. That way you can talk directly to our winemakers or us if we're doing
Italy.
Or if we're doing the Italy one, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to do that.
And we'll get you a little gift if you want to do that because we'd love to have you on our show and talk to our winemakers.
Absolutely. People are probably sick of us.
I hope not. We try real hard.
Perfect. Well, tonight was good.
It was.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. So we had a really good time. Honestly, having Brian on, it's really hard to get premier winemakers on shows. I mean, these guys are so busy doing what they're doing. Yeah. So for Brian to take his time tonight and be a part of our show, honestly means really a lot to both of us. It's not just about, oh, we got a winemaker. Buena Vista is very, very special. They're a premier winery in California. So again, Brian, thank you so very much. And we stole some time away from your family, which means a lot to you. So we appreciate you. So thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you guys soon. Remember, Wine Down Wednesday.
Wine Down Wednesday, yes. And we will see you guys on March 31st.
So always tune in. It's always a good time.